headed to Duck's Heritage Custom Boots, made by the one and only Dustin Lauw.
Well, this is a back road as there is any back road.
That's it.
Your first time going, you drove past on the GPS?
I drove smooth past him. And I might drive smooth past him again. And I know the guy. I've been there several times.
This road's going on forever. So, for the show being Backroads and barbecue, we've had some great barbecue. I assure you this is down a back road. My cousin JW drove past several times before he figured out where he was at. But we were at Duck's Heritage Cowboy Boots by Dustin Lauw, Salado, Texas. And this apparently is the most amazing set of boots ever made, right?
I don't think you can get any more custom than this.
No?
No, it's I've been here a few times. I know Dustin. It's an experience like you've never seen before. I mean, you can find other custom boot makers throughout the state of Texas and outside the state of Texas, but the uniqueness and the care and the quality and the heart that he puts in his boot, hands down.
The personalization with the attention to detail?
Oh,
hands down?
Hands down. You won't see anything like this.
Really?
Really.
Well, all right, let's go see.
Let's go meet him. Knock, knock.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
What's up, buddy?
How are you, man?
Good, how are
to see
you?
Good. Come on. Hey, Dustin Lauw, how are you doing?
John O'Neill, pleased to meet you, sir.
You too.
Please don't be offended at my Justins, man.
My customer base makes up people who can't find something at the store to properly fit. They have foot problems, they have bad bunions, they have hammer toes, any sort of issues that would cause a store-bought boot to not fit or to cause them more problems. Most store-bought boots have no arch support in them, and arch support's very key to having a properly fitted boot. Having arch support takes care of a lot of problems that people don't think about. You know, you have bad knees, you have a bad back. At the end of the day, your shoulders are tired. Well, having proper support takes care of all that. So each pair of my boots is uniquely fitted to the individual. There's no two pair of boots that ever come out of the shop that are alike. They might look similar, but the fit is what is key to it. You know, I advertise as individually fitted boots, and that's exactly what they are. So this is where we start at. We size the last, and
So do you add stuff to the last?
yeah, absolutely. These are leather build outs, so a last would start out looking like this. Just
Okay.
This is a stock last, or what maybe Justin's or someone else like that would use whenever they're making what I call a shelf boot. So when I get done with the last, you know, it's purely custom. It's, you know, it's shaped to this person. Obviously, this person has a really large foot, has a really high instep. A real interesting customer I just had in here last week had a growth on the bottom of her foot, so I had to build up the last to accommodate that growth. So that growth was a result of a autoimmune disease, and as she described it, store-bought boots, it feels like she's standing on a rock. So what I did was I did a build out on the bottom of the last and made a pocket for this growth to fit into. So took care of the problem for her. She's wearing the boots right now. So, you know, people will come in and they'll say, you know, hey, I've got these orthotics. I want you to measure me with the orthotics so I can wear orthotics in my boots. And I always ask them, you know, what would you say if I could build you a boot where you wouldn't need orthotic inserts? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. And that's what I do. So, you know, again, just looking at the last and seeing this arch in there, after all, that's what the orthotic is. It just gives you support back.
Yeah, the orthotic in the boot.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only are you trying to fit someone's foot, you're trying to fit their head also, which meaning you're trying to fit their interpretation of how they think a proper fit is. I have to determine You know, have they ever had a foot injury? Have they ever had ankle injury? Are they diabetic? Are they high blood pressure? You know, do they have swelling? You know, what percentage of the day are they on their feet? You know, questions like that, and I write all that information down, so I get an opinion in my head as I'm measuring them how I want those boots to fit, and then I build the boots accordingly. The other side of that coin, people who just really appreciate craftsmanship, and they appreciate the old way things are done, and they know that there's something better. People who know the value of $1 don't mind spending $1,500 on a pair of Cowboy boots.
Right.
And that's my base price boot. My average boot probably sells for $2,000, $2,200. But people who know the value of $1, they'll drop it on that every time. I get calls every day, or I get social media messages. People, if the first question that they ask me is what's the price of my boots, I never sell them boots. But if someone will call and they say, you know, I've got a bad bunion, the doctor wants me to get operated on, and I'd rather not do it. Can you fit me in a pair of boots that won't irritate the bunion? And I'm like, sure, that's the easy stuff. I'll sell them boots all the time. So people would call and schedule an appointment. They would come in to get measured, and we'd measure their feet. I do 9 measurements per foot. That takes about 30 minutes maybe, and then we come back here and we design the boot. And the boot design is just, there's no limits to it. It's just up to the customer's imagination, their creativity. I've had people literally come in here and spend 4 hours designing a pair of boots because they can't decide color, or they think they decide a color and then they leave, or they start to leave and they're like, you know what, that's not going to work, and we start all over. A lot of my repeat customers, they'll tell me they'll say, you pick the colors, you pick the leather, just make them where they'll last. You know, no one's going to see them except for my horse and the cow. So once they order a pair of boots, they'll have the second pair ordered before they leave with the first pair. So I have a lot of repeat customers. I get some phone orders where it's like, okay, I think I'm ready for another pair, put me in line. So I've got 2 customers that stay in line, meaning that I work up to their folder, build their boots, and they come pick up their boots, and they tell me to put their folder back at the end and call them when I get back up to it. So I think every maker has something that they're strong at. Some guys, you're in boot making, and what the old shops used to call it, you're either a top or you're a bottom man. Bottom meaning you were good at doing heels, you were good at soles, you were good at finishing. The top guys were the guys that did the top stitching, and I've always been very good at doing tops. I've always been very good at top stitching. My base boot comes with 5 rows of top stitching, it's standard, and so I wanted to build a pair of boots for a contest last year, and I wanted to win the contest in the top stitching category, but I knew 5 rows wasn't gonna do it. Everyone does 5 rows of stitching. And so the next number that popped into my mind was 12 rows. It's like, okay, well, I've never stitched 12 rows on boot tops before. So I drew out a pattern and I stitched 12 rows on it, and I thought, man, I've got so much room left on this. So I kept stitching, and then I had to stop and redesign it. So I had this idea formed in my head. I designed the stitch pattern, and I kept stitching and I kept stitching, and I invested 38 hours in stitching just these tops. Wow. So a typical boot for me takes between 40 to 50 hours. So I had almost that much time just stitching. I did these boots with 21 rows of top stitching. And they were 17-inch tall tops, so it's a lot of stitching. And anyway, I've won the contest for that.
Wait, stop. Anyway, if you like what I'm doing, subscribe to my Facebook, follow me on Instagram, throw me a pin on Pinterest if you can, and follow me.